Elon Musk is leaving California because of the left. He said on X that he's out after Governor Gavin Newsom signed a bill that prevents schools from requiring teachers to notify parents if their child changes genders or starts using different pronouns. That legislation came in response to a pocket of red district schools in the Golden Gate State that decided to instruct teachers to tell parents when kids made requests to change their pronouns. Now, while the LGBTQ community is happy about that decision from Gavin Newsom, critics are claiming that the state has overstepped and stomped on parental rights.
Musk not only blasted Newsom's bill, but announced he's leaving California entirely, posting on X, quote, "This is the final straw because of this law and the many others that preceded it. Attacking both families and companies, SpaceX will now move its HQ from Hawthorne, California to Starbase, Texas." Users on the platform applauded Musk's decision. One user said, quote, "This is leadership, Elon, thank you." Caitlyn Jenner chimed in, posting, quote, "Strong move, good for SpaceX." I just picture Elon with the energy of Eeyore, all sad, walking with a bindle and stick to Texas, or just to board his private jet with his bindle and stick. It's like he feels bullied for no reason. This is a guy whose wife was Grimes, of all people. He used to hang out at weird underground parties at MIT in Massachusetts and talk about new agey, far left, weird liberal ideas. And then he got divorced and he got sad and he realized he can make friends online by being this like anti-woke figure, and it's...
Or then he tangled or saw with, as a parent, he's a parent to many children, and he saw what the school system, how they violate parental rights. I mean, I have to say I disagree very much with the Newsom law. I mean, there's the requiring it aspect, it ends up being a little bit Byzantine. I had to make sure 10 times I said it right. So some schools wanted to tell teachers that if one of your kids in the classroom wants to use different pronouns, you should let their parents know about that. I think that's a fine policy for a school to set. And then now the state is saying the schools cannot make that policy. So in some ways, it's a violation also of schools just setting their own rules. Look, you have to, I mean, you got to get a permission slip to go on a field trip to the zoo. It's very common for schools to seek input from the parents if you're going to watch a R-rated movie or go to or on a field trip. So the idea that it would be like, it's like crazy that the school would keep the parents in the loop. I mean, we should not assume parents are abusive or something. In the vast majority of cases, they are not. So the idea that, to me at least, is nuts that teachers would be precluded from doing that. Again, I think that should just be left to the discretion of the school. And if you don't like that policy, you can go to a different school. But I certainly don't think the state has to. I utterly oppose, in fact, the state saying you cannot have that policy at the school.
One of the most interesting things I've heard from someone I know who is a teacher whose opinion I respect very much is that a lot of the children that go to school and are crying and throwing tantrums when their parents are around, but then when the teacher says, okay, like put your backpack in your locker, they're very obedient. They just go and do it. That's because they feel emotionally safe around their parents. And the kids that become very emotionally expressive at school but are obedient around their parents feel more emotionally safe at school. If you are a parent and your child is disclosing information about their identity to their teacher, but not to you, that signals to me that you have failed as a parent. You shouldn't need the teacher to tell you what your kid's identity is. So I think it's fine if you don't require the teacher to disclose that. Ask your kid, have your kid tell you. This isn't infringing on any rights of the parent. The parent doesn't need to be told everything the teacher knows about their kid or what their kid asks for at school. They have a right to know their educational record, and I just don't think this is their educational record.
Well, again, if the school wants to set a policy to that regard, that's fine with me. If a school wants to have a policy that, yeah, we're not going to inform parents about those kinds of things, okay, fine. Maybe I wouldn't send my kids to that school, but you can do whatever you want. This is the state saying the school can't have that policy. I mean, right, as you point out, teachers routinely notify parents about, if your kid doesn't turn in a homework assignment several days in a row or fails a quiz and this is atypical behavior for the kid, they might, send a note or give a call to the parent saying, hey, is there something up with this with the kid because this is unusual behavior, and I want to make sure everything's okay. Like some level of communication between parents and teachers can be perfectly typical and healthy. So if there's a change, and this is a personal change, but they're seeing how the kids behave up close, and the teacher thinks the parent ought to know about that. Again, I don't want to create like a police state for teachers to spy on kids if they think it should be kept private. I would really just leave it to the school and the teacher's discretion, probably. This is overriding that. I think there might be cases where it's very worthwhile for a teacher to clue in a parent to that.
But I don't see.
But I wouldn't require it. I just wouldn't ban it.
Well, aren't they banning the requirement? So there was a requirement in one school that resulted in this lawsuit, and this school required parents to disclose this, and now they're saying you're not allowed to require it. So it's up to the teachers to decide. Right,
but if the school wants to set that policy for its teachers and say that at this school, here's what to expect, our teachers would, in this kind of situation, let parents know, the state is now saying they can't have that policy. And I don't agree with that. Would I leave California over it? No, I would probably leave California over about 800 other things, including the high cost of living and the mentally ill people, crazy people on the street that we talked about in our segment yesterday. But I absolutely think we have lost the concept of parental rights in education. Parents primarily have responsibility over their children, not the school system. And this is what parents like Elon Musk and many on the right are pushing back on, the idea that your child belongs to the public school system, belongs to the state, and you're not allowed to have any say in policies or any knowledge about what they're even up to, that's outside your purview. And that's what parents hate. They've rebelled against it in state after state, in Virginia, in Florida, et cetera. That's why elections were lost, because parents don't like the idea of someone else being in charge of their kids.
I think if you're a parent and you're not doing a good job as a parent, so much so that your kid won't disclose to you what their identity is, that's your business. This is Elon Musk using the anti-woke mob on Twitter to gain support for a decision that is purely of corporate greed and purely a business decision. He has been building a company town in Starbase, Texas for months, if not over a year at this point, that I've reported on time and again. Employees will live in this company town, and now that it's nearing the end of construction, he's saying, we're going to California because California's too woke. No, you're leaving California because you're building a company town that makes George Orwell roll in his grave.
Because the business climate is better. Right. So he's leaving California because it's too woke and because the climate for businesses is oppressive. And he's hardly the first to do so. We hear story after story
oppressive for the business owner, not for the workers. I would say living in a company town where you owe your livelihood to your employer is the epitome of a loss of freedom.
If you don't...
He owns the rental units that his employees will be living in. He's their landlord and their boss.
These people clearly want to work there, as evidence that they do.
I mean, people are desperate for a job because you need American dollars in order to survive in this country, to have food and housing.
We all have to work in order to survive. I don't think that's a blow to people's freedom. Freedom just means you can do what you want on your own property with your own resources.
But your property's your boss's property in the company town.
You're constrained by, just like the apartment I live in is not actually my property because I rent space in it under terms of agreement. Am I owned by the company that owns my building? No, I'm free to leave at any time. I give them money in order to stay in the building. If I really don't like their policies, I'll move, as I have 5 times in the last several years in DC, because there was some change to the policy in the building I didn't like, and you move. Your freedom does not mean other people are obligated to provide for you, because then that would be anti-freedom for them. Like if you're obligated to provide me housing and food and clothing, then suddenly you're not free. I have the right to pursue those things. I don't have the right to be provided them for me, because then I would actually be obligating someone else to do something. I mean, it's just negative rights versus positive rights. I'm sure this is an argument we will have many times in the future.
Right? And you're also a landlord. You're obligating someone to pay the rent, which finances your life, and give their labor to you, which finances your life as well.
Because I own something and you want part of it, and you're going to pay to get that benefit of something that I have.
But very few people own all of the stuff in America, Elon being one of the billionaires. You don't find that terrifying?
I do not.
I do.
I know.
I'm scared, Robby.
I mean, I'm the opposite of scared. He's putting his wealth and resources toward defending and saving free speech on social media, making more environmentally friendly modes of transportation, and eventually building a colony on Mars. I'm the opposite of scared. I'm hopeful that he's going to save humanity from the crushing forces of oppression and environmental collapse and everything else. Don't you want a Mars colony?
No.
You
Not
don't want
as
a
much
Mars?
as I want freedom for the working class of America.
Well, I mean, I want good things for the working class of America, but
Just not freedom. Just other good things.
No, I want freedom for them, but freedom to me does not mean the freedom to what that's just not free. That the entitlement to some of Elon Musk's money, I don't think that's freedom. You work for him and he pays you, and a lot of people, millions of people probably, are happy to make that exchange. But if there are drawbacks or bad things about the practices at his business or in his property, I'm sure that it's fine to call them out. I'm sure we have in the past called them out on this show. I've criticized him numerous times for some of his policies. I don't think it's necessarily a violation of your freedom if he wants to have his company elsewhere.
I think at the very baseline we can agree that it is suspicious timing that he's leaving California because of parents' rights at the same time the Starbase
I agree with you. That's not the only.
Completes.
It's absolutely not the only reason he's leaving. I agree
Very
on that.
suspicious.
Yeah, but fine by me. More rising right after this.